2 points of reflection this Sunday morning. First, today begins Catholic Schools Week all around the United States, when we reflect on the important work of the Church of continuing to teach what Jesus taught. In a sense, the Catholic Church keeps it going. What Jesus started, we keep going. One of those principal works that he did was teaching. We're very proud of our St. Philip Neri Catholic School. Many efforts to form and teach our young. Today, January 29th, is the feast of St. Thomas Aquinas. Perhaps that's why the Church picked this week to be Catholic Schools Week, because he was such a great scholar himself. He was a Dominican priest. He lived in the 1200s. He's thought by some to be the smartest man in the world. And he was a priest. So, just saying. But he had a photographic memory. Anything he read, he remembered, and he read a lot. But at that time in the 1200s, Europe had brought over a lot of texts and books from the Middle East that they had never seen before. The writings of the ancient Greek philosophers, the writings of some Muslim and Jewish philosophers. So they brought this to Europe. Thomas Aquinas took all this, read it, digested it, and then reconciled it with Catholic teaching, what the apostles had written in the New Testament, what Jesus had revealed. So this ancient philosophy and this new theology, and he meshed the two together. And for the first time, we had the most comprehensive explanation, understanding of human life. Who we are, who God is, how to find happiness in life, what's right and wrong, true and false. Thomas kind of summarized it all, and we still read his writings today. In the gospel, we hear about Jesus' teaching. He goes into the synagogue on the Sabbath, just like we come to church today on the Sabbath, Sunday. And he taught, and people said, he teaches with authority. In other words, he doesn't say, this is my opinion, or maybe this is true, or one way to think about it. He says, this is true, and I am God. Believe it. Trust it. Apparently there was a man in church that day who was possessed by the devil. And the devil spoke through the man's mouth and said, we know who you are. You are the Holy One of God. And Jesus said, get out of here. And the devil dramatically left the man and dispersed. Even the devil obeyed Jesus and recognized his authority. I don't anticipate that we're going to have that dramatic occurrence here this morning. But if we do, we're ready. Church is ready. So the challenge to say, new teaching, God came to earth to give us guidance, but there's an authority behind it. The Catholic Church continues to do that. Not our opinion. You don't think these things because you thought about it on your own. We've been teaching this for years. Christianity is the biggest religion in the history of the world. The largest percentage of people on the planet practice Christianity, follow the teachings of Jesus. And we're the only religion whose founder claimed to be God. There's an authority behind what we say and do. Have confidence in that. Don't let people push you around. Isn't your personal opinion. C.S. Lewis was a great Christian writer. He was talking about Christian education. He said, the goal of education is to teach children what they ought to love. What should you like? You might not like it now, but you should. So we're going to try to help you to see the goodness of it, so that you turn your mind and your heart to it. You know, a lot of things in life are acquired taste. Many don't like peas when they're growing up. But you learn that vegetables are good for you and they make you feel healthy. Many of us don't like to exercise when we're young. We feel tired. We want to stop. You say, no, push through it. The coach challenges you because you're going to get stronger and faster and you're going to feel good and you'll be healthy. You have to learn to like to read, to study. You'd rather watch TV than read a book, but you know if you engage your mind, ultimately it's good, it's satisfying. We are rational people. We want to understand. Sometimes you don't want to work, but you know we need to work. We all have something to build, something to create, and we take great satisfaction out of that. But these are acquired tastes. You have to learn to love them. And it's the same with the spiritual life. Even as adults, sometimes we don't love what we should. We know we should want to read the New Testament. We should want to make time of personal prayer each day. We should want to go to church on Sunday. Yeah, but it's raining. Maybe this morning we didn't want to as much as we sometimes want to. But we know we should love it. And we keep trying. And you acquire that love, that interest. Some people are fascinated by prayer and spiritual reading and the sacraments. The lack is in us, not in the good. So our school here for 52 years have been teaching children what they should love. Our religious education program on Sunday, our youth ministry, our confirmation preparation for high school students. In fact, we have 35 teenagers this morning who are on confirmation retreat. We'll pray for them later in the Mass. Teaching them what they should love. But all of us have that job, don't we? Teaching our own children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews. Sometimes the parents don't do it and we have to step in and do it for them. Kind of like godparents. And all the while reminding ourselves what we should love. Forming the soul. The motto of our St. Philip Neri school is forming the whole child, soul, mind, and body. Not just your thoughts, not just academics, not just facts, but your character, your personality, your desires, your beliefs, your habits, developing virtues. Someone said the soul of education is the education of the soul. That's the heart of the matter. That's the most important thing. Forming the soul of the person, the inner core of who they are. So the importance of this work, we keep the teaching of Jesus going. And the second point of reflection today, I want to consider our second reading, which is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. We've been reading it for the past few weeks. And Paul speaks about, he contrasts those who are married and those who are living the single life, or in particular the celibate life, those who choose the single life, are committed to it. Paul says, he speaks about women. He says, married women are anxious about the world, the things of the world, anxious about their husband. I don't know why husbands give you such anxiety. I'm not sure. Paul says they do. So married women are anxious about many things. He said, but unmarried women are anxious about the things of God. And they're almost, in a sense, kind of more focused. They don't have so much to consider. So I want to discuss a little bit today the vocation of religious sisters, women who feel called by God to choose celibacy, to dedicate their life to serving others in a religious order. What is the good of it? Sometimes when we think of marriage, young people think of all the consolations of marriage. They don't always think about the sacrifices of marriage. And when young people think about religious life, they think about all the sacrifices, but they don't realize there's a lot of consolations as well. So why a religious sister? When a woman joins a religious order, she makes three promises: poverty, chastity, and obedience. Kind of defines her life. Poverty. She's not going to be anxious about the things of the world. She's not going to follow the latest fashion trends. She's not going to do a lot of shopping. She's not going to be so concerned about her appearance. Those aren't bad things, but they're not the most essential things. She lives simply. Usually she wears a veil and a habit. Do you know when you wear these long flowing robes, the only part of the person you see is the face. You focus on the person, not the body. You see the beauty of the person through their eyes. There's something very real and true about that. There was actually a little clip, I don't know if you saw it on the internet or EWTN last week. There were some Dominican sisters skiing, Ski Liberty, up in their habits and veils. Like, come on, couldn't you wear like a hat? I mean, it was pretty cool. I don't know how they did it. One was even snowboarding. Pretty impressive. Poverty, chastity. A woman chooses to give up the beautiful friendship with a husband, the intimate friendship of marriage, because she wants to focus more on her friendship with Jesus. and that He will make up that lack that marriage fills. Only God satisfies ultimately, right? No human friendship suffices, though human friendships are important. And really, it's only the Catholic Church that has this long tradition and big tradition of celibacy, because we also have Jesus in the Eucharist. That makes it real. The friendship with Jesus isn't theoretical. You sit in this chapel, you look at Christ in the tabernacle, and you speak to Him, and He speaks to you. You get thoughts and ideas. You get encouragement and affirmation. You can't fake celibacy. You've got to have a consolation. Praying before the Eucharist, receiving Holy Communion, gives you a real personal connection to Christ. Friendship with Him and friendship with each other. Religious sisters have great friendship, great sorority. You hang around them, when you leave, your cheeks are tired from smiling. Just a great joy. So they promise poverty, they promise chastity, they promise obedience. They give up their independence, they give up their career path. They join a religious order and they accept the mission and the work of that order. They go where they're told to serve. They trust that through that God is going to guide their life and they're going to bear great fruit, have great impact on the world. Kind of a sense of mission. Every order has a different charism, a different type of work. Some work with the poor, some with the sick, some teach, some pray. When a woman is discerning religious life, she would look and say, what is my desire? What type of work do I feel called to? Am I good at? And then I would discern religious orders that do that type of work. Now, it's true you don't see a lot of religious sisters around today. Some of the orders that we grew up with, some of us, the order that taught at our school, they're not as strong anymore. They're not getting vocation. Some of that is natural. Religious orders, in a sense, come and go according to the need. They're created to satisfy a certain need. When that need is satisfied, they subside. But then new orders are started to respond to new needs. So there are some thriving young orders with young sisters. And we're not far from quite a few of them. We're fortunate. The Dominican sisters teach in Catonsville at Mount DeSales. The Dominican order is the fastest growing religious women's order in the country. One of our parishioners is a Dominican sister in Michigan. There's the Little Sisters of the Poor in Catonsville. They care, the Dominican sisters teach, educate the young about what they should love. Little Sisters of the Poor care for the elderly, help them have a dignified last years of their life and prepare them for death. And that charism is increasingly important as our life expectancy changes and increases. We need more help as we get older. We should pray and hope that more women will be called to this charism because we're going to need it personally ourselves. I asked the sister to reserve a room for me someday. We think of them, these little gentle sisters, the sisters of the poor, but they're tough, right? They took their case all the way to the Supreme Court a couple years ago, challenging the U.S. government to give them the right to practice their religious freedom. There's another order that's newer. It's from Argentina, but a house of formation in Washington. They're called the Sisters of the Incarnate Word. A lot of young American women are joining. And they do a variety of work, the poor, the sick, teaching whatever is needed. I was at a funeral this Thursday. There were 30 of these sisters at the funeral. When have you seen 30 religious sisters together? And they were all under age 50. Youngish. They're growing, it's thriving. We have the Missionaries of Charity in Baltimore City, caring for the poor. Some of our parishioners volunteer. There are strong, growing orders. The Holy Spirit is still working. This is still a very relevant, a very essential vocation in the church today. Religious sisters. Not anxious about the things of the world, but anxious about Christ. Some of us were at the March for Life this past Friday. There were thousands of young religious sisters there. So they are around. Just have to know where to look. But my brothers and sisters, all of us called to do God's work in some way, especially the work of teaching, bringing the teachings of Jesus, digesting them ourselves, pondering them, living them, passing them on to the next generation. Educating the young about what they should love. Amen.